What is up, Axiie fam? You know how we are around here. I'm not gonna waste your time. Let's get going. Alright guys, I know breeding can be a little bit boring, and I know this video is going to be kinda long, so I spiced things up a little bit. Maybe you don't breed, maybe you just flip axies, maybe you think you already know everything about breeding, you open this video, you're actually considering closing, and here's the reason why you should keep watching. Randomly in this video, there are 4 moments where I cut the video and I actually add 2 axies that you can buy, breed, and profit. Alright, I did that using my bot that you can find in the description. It's our Discord group, and that is just a free gift from me because you guys are awesome. So let's keep going. The first thing I actually want to share about breeding that a lot of people don't know is that the direction that genes can go varies more than you would think. So let me explain that a little bit. Let's say you want to breed this plant, but instead of having an axiie that has yam, leaf bug, pincer, you only have these 3 genes. So you're gonna find an axiie that has pumpkin on 3 genes, and you're gonna try and breed with this guy. And that is usually how we think about breeding, right? You have R1 and R2 genes that you want to send towards your D gene because that is where your skills are, and skills are important because you battle with them. But your D gene can also go the other way, and a lot of people, they know the probabilities for axies and they forget that this is also something that happened. This information usually isn't that important when the only thing you care about is actually getting your D genes right, so having PvP axies. But if you're breeding to increase purity, if you're breeding to, start your own lineage of axies, that is very important information, and I do have a table that you can check out. It's actually in our private Discord server, but I'm gonna show it to you anyways. These are the probabilities that your D gene is gonna come from D, R1, and R2. This is usually the probabilities people talk about, but your R1 genes also have a probability of showing, and they can come from D, from R1, and from R2. And the next example is going to show you why this is important. Alright, so let's say you want to breed this beautiful axiie, alright? Perfect nut, perfect imp, perfect nut, but Ronin has 1 impurity that is hero. If you try to breed this guy with this axiie here, even though in terms, ignore the top parts, alright? Let's only talk about the skill purity here. If you breed these 2 axies, the outcome, purity-wise, is going to be worse than if you bred this guy that we talked initially with something like this, which is also perfect but has an impurity in hotbutt instead of having an impurity in the Ronin side. And well, why is that? Think it this way. Think that you have 2 100% axies and they breed, alright? Some of the results are going to be 100% axies. Some of them will have lower purity because mutations can happen in the R1 and in the R2 genes. But there's something funny that happens when you have, let's say, a 98% axiie or a 99% axiie, like in this case. So if the impurities are in the same slot, well, for that slot of that gene, what are the possible outcomes, right? It could be an impurity, it could be an impurity, or it could come from R1. We talked about this, right? If we actually, your R2 gene can come from R1, but there's only an 11% chance that it happens. So if you breed 2 99% axies that have impurities in the exact 1 impurity in that exact same slot, you will have less 100% axies because you only have an 11% chance of inheriting that gene from the R1. What you can take away from this is that when you have a farm and you have axies, and a lot of people get confused about this, which axies should I select to breed? Well, ideally, you don't want to select axies that have impurities in the same slots because, as you already noticed, you will have lower purity, and in general, lower purity means lower value. It's not necessarily the case, but very frequently is the case. I think that is not talked about anywhere. I don't think I've seen one YouTube video talking about it, and that's it. Free knowledge for you, so you can increase your profit margins a little bit and just make better informed decisions in how you run your farm. The third thing that I want to talk about is breeding floor axies is not a good idea at the moment, and you're probably thinking, yeah, I knew that is very dumb. And I mean, I say this because one of my closest friends actually got a lot of money 3-4 months ago when Axie was booming by literally just opening up the, he just clicked marketplace. He would find the cheapest Axies that he could find. So, I mean, yeah, he would just get this Axie right here, and he would buy it, and he would breed it with the next Axie that would show up. And the floor prices were high enough so that the amount of money that he would spend in SLP and Ether was worth it to just do that. And floor Axies, they sell very quick because they're cheap. Because they sell very quick, what happened is he just got a lot of money very easily. If you check how much the floor price is right now, though, you can see 127, 130. We can go to page 50 and the price pretty much stays the same. So you have this wall of floor Axies and they're not selling. And if you bred them, you probably lost money because, as you can see, to breed one time, you're gonna spend $180 right now. And that is not accounting for the fact that both parents are going to lose value once you bred them, because now they're one breed instead of zero breed. And once you breed more times, you're losing even more money. And I mean, sure, you already knew everything, but what you can take away from this is that I think, let's say you want to breed that plan we were talking about, okay? And you found, kind of like shitty parents, and you look at them, and you can say, like, it spent 0.1 Ethereum total to buy those two Axies and breed. Sometimes it might be actually worth it to spend 0.14 or 0.15. Obviously, you have to make your own calculations, have an Excel spreadsheet or use our bot. And once you do the calculations, be sure that you're minimizing the chance of Axies, like this one show up, because those are a certain way of losing money. And yeah, basically, I think Axie is in a state right now where you want to minimize risk. Not totally, right? You can still go for like kind of crazy breeds, but then you really need your target Axie to be worth enough so that if you get something like this, you're still gonna get profits somewhere. Now, I want to break the unbreakable rule of Axie Infinity everywhere, in my Discord server, in YouTube channels, YouTube videos. I get the feeling that a lot of people, when they breed something like this, they'll just put the floor price and sell it because they're like, all right, this sucks. There's nothing here. But I think it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. This Axie comes from this team right here. And this Axie is really good, in fact, because he has two bug cards. Those two bug cards that have zero cost cards allow these two Axies here to have Gary Swarm to proc it very frequently and constantly. And because Pincer is such a good card by itself, this Axie is actually viable and it's really good. The takeaway from this is actually twofold. If you are an individual with a lot of money and you have wonky Axies, maybe they have 2 zero cost cards, maybe they have 2 mobility cards, and you don't need that money to keep rebreeding your farm, so you're wealthy enough so that you're not actually, you don't really need to sell everything that you breed to keep your operation running. I think there is definitely an incentive to keep those Axies for 2 reasons. First of all, you know that Axie is cyclical, and in a couple of months or weeks, everything could be more expensive, and you can recoup your profits instead of selling them for cheap right now, since you don't need the money. And the second reason is actually Battle 2.0. An Axie that looks wonky right now could be insanely good, and an Axie that is super meta could be terrible. I think because we're going to increase the number of cards in 50%, basically, having 2 zero cost cards out of 6 looks much better than having 2 zero cost cards out of 4, which is the case right now. So in general, Axies like this one could be even better. Obviously, if you don't have a lot of money and you do need to sell everything that you breed to keep your operation, maybe just sell it. Money now is oftentimes more available than money in the future. But I just want to, maybe give you a more nuanced view of how Axie works rather than just, following blind rules to everything. These Axies can be good, and always think critically of what you're doing rather than just following rules that someone else invented. And yeah, guys, this is it. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to tell you guys that if you're breeding right now and you're struggling with those with the $300 fees that you can pay with MetaMask, I want to tell you guys that we have our own exchange that works for much cheaper than MetaMask. All right, if we're going for a 2 or 3K USD transaction right now in our exchange, you're going to pay about $80 of fees. Whereas with MetaMask, as I said, you're going to pay $300. We charge a flat fee plus a 2 to 0.% spread, depending on how much we have of each currency. So sometimes you can actually pay very little, sometimes you can pay a little bit more for that coin, but it's still going to be much better than MetaMask, and it's actually much faster too. So thank you so much for watching.